Forward students, staff, and families, we are thrilled to share this presentation with you today. During Black History Month and all year, we celebrate and learn about the lives and contributions of African Americans. Today, we are going to learn about several influential people and achievements made in our own state's history. Black American Delaware History, presented by the staff and students of Forwood Elementary School, featuring words from Congresswoman Lisa Blunt Rochester.
Black history is American history. Black history is Delaware history. Black history is our history.
Hello, Forwood Elementary School Foxes, along with the teachers, the staff, the administrators, and your families. I'm Congresswoman Lisa Blunt Rochester, and I am so excited to be able to celebrate Black History Month with you. This month, I've picked a special person to highlight. Her name is Rebecca Lee Crumpler, and she actually was the first Black woman doctor in the United States of America. I think in this time when we are trying to make sure that we are healthy and well as a state and as a country, it's important to focus on all of our healthcare heroes from the past and even today. And so Rebecca Lee Crumpler was really special because she was the first. She was the first Black woman doctor. But guess what else? Guess where she was born? She was born right here in Delaware. So I want you to take some time over Black History Month to find out a little bit more about this pioneer, this woman who just wanted to help people, and this woman who would be celebrated today, Rebecca Lee Crumpler. Happy Black History Month.
Black American Delaware History. Forwood students, you'll notice that our Delaware map on the left is colored red, gold, and green. According to West African tradition, red symbolizes courage, gold symbolizes knowledge, and green symbolizes harmony. We'll start in the beginning, in the 1600s. If there is a book you want to read, but it hasn't been written yet, then you must write it. Toni Morrison.
Meet Anthony Swart.
Antony was the first documented black man to arrive in New Sweden, which is now Delaware, in 1639. Antony was a slave who was captured by the skipper of a Swedish tall ship called the Vogel Grip in the West Indies. He was brought to New Sweden in 1639. 9 years later, he became a free man and worked as an assistant to Governor Johann Prince. Antony was originally known as Anthony, but he changed his name to Antony Swart once he became a free man. He worked at Fort Christina, which is now Wilmington, along with other free and enslaved black men and women. Most black colonists worked as farm workers or domestic servants in the lower 3 counties of Delaware, and many worked alongside the Delaware River, which runs right along our own school district. Antony cut hay and sailed Governor Prince's sloop through the 1640s and 50s.
Black American Delaware history, slavery in Delaware, 1700s to the 1800s. Every great dream begins with a dreamer. Always remember, you have within you the strength, the patience, and the passion to reach for the stars to change the world. Harriet Tubman.
Araminta Ross was born enslaved on the eastern shore of Maryland around 1820. She was one of 11 children. Minty worked tirelessly as a child, cooking, cleaning, watching after other children, and checking traps in the marshland for muskrats. Around the age of 12, Minty was struck in the forehead by a steel weight that was thrown by a shop owner at another slave. This injury was very serious, and its effects lasted the rest of Minty's life. It caused severe headaches and episodes of seizures or narcolepsy that caused her to fall into a deep sleep at random times. When she awoke, she reported vivid dreams or visions. As a young woman, Minty chose to use her mother's name, Harriet, then married a man named John Tubman, a free black man. Soon she heard that her younger brothers were about to be sold at auction. She and her brothers ran away to escape, but her brothers were afraid and they returned back to the Bordas plantation. The next time Harriet escaped, she traveled alone. She ran 90 miles to freedom in Pennsylvania. This would have taken between 5 days or 3 weeks. The journey was made with the help of brave people, black and white, who worked the Underground Railroad, secretly helping fugitive slaves to gain their freedom in northern states and Canada. The Underground conductors directed Harriet to Wilmington, Delaware, to meet a man named Thomas Garrett, a Quaker who lived in Wilmington and helped fugitive slaves. Mr. Garrett helped Harriet cross safely into Pennsylvania. It is likely they traveled over the land where we live and go to school now. Harriet treasured her freedom in Philadelphia, and she wanted her family to be free too. Over the next 11 years, she made many dangerous trips back to Dorchester County, Maryland, to lead family, friends, and even her elderly parents to freedom as far as Canada. To avoid capture, she sometimes wore costumes and always traveled different routes over land or water to escape the people who were looking for her. She led so many people to freedom, she became known as Moses. She traveled in the winter, during long cold nights, over Christmas holidays and weekends when plantation owners were busy and wouldn't notice slaves were gone. When the Civil War began in 1861, Harriet served as a nurse for the Union Army, nursing soldiers with native plants. Her knowledge of the land was so valuable. She was made a scout or a spy for the Union Army. In 1863, she led a troop of soldiers to free over 700 enslaved people in South Carolina. By then, she was called General. After the Civil War, Harriet bought land in Auburn, New York. She remarried a man named Nelson Davis and together adopted a daughter named Gertie. During this time, she worked to promote women's suffrage, which is the right to vote. She worked with Susan B. Anthony and Emily Howland. After a very long, productive life, Harriet Tubman died of pneumonia in 1913. Just before she died, she told those in the room with her, "I go prepare a place for you." The famous abolitionist Frederick Douglass honored Tubman in his biography by writing, "The midnight sky and the silent stars have been the witnesses to your devotion to freedom and your heroism. I know of no other one who has willingly entered more perils and hardships to serve our enslaved people than you have." Thank you, Harriet Tubman.
Samuel Burris, abolitionist and conductor on the Underground Railroad. Samuel was a free man, but he was fearful that his family might be sold as slaves in the reverse Underground Railroad and moved them to Pennsylvania. He then helped Thomas Garrett to free slaves and protect free Black people in Delaware. Mr. Burris was arrested for these crimes and was sentenced to prison after a trial at the Newcastle courthouse in 1947. He was then auctioned as a slave in Dover, and he was purchased by an abolitionist who gave him back to freedom. Mr. Burris was recognized for his bravery and pardoned for his crimes by Governor Jack Markell nearly 170 years later.
The Underground Railroad by Thurman Adams, dedicated to the memory of Harriet Ross Tubman.
A railroad without rails, passengers but not in cars, a one-way route south to north, guided at night by the stars. A trip by this transportation was paid, but not a ticket was bought, for it cost so many their blood and lives in reaching its end not to be caught. No dining car for food and drink, no sleeping car for a bed, no cushioned seats to sit and rest by a conductor north you were led. For on the Underground Railroad, travel was like none other around. You were traveling northward bound, and your final destination was freedom found.
Black American Delaware history, civil rights movement of the 1960s. Never be afraid to make some noise and get in good trouble, necessary trouble. Representative John Lewis.
Hi, I'm Avni. The book I read is A Place to Land. It is a book about Martin Luther King by Barry Whitstein and Jerry Pinkney. It tells us about Martin Luther King struggling to write a speech, but he never gave up and made a beautiful speech. What I like about the book is the illustrations. The illustrations really tell us how Martin was feeling at the time. The illustrations looked so real. From my research in Children's Encyclopedia, I learned that Martin won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1964. I never knew he won that prize. My connection to the person is his dream. He has a dream to make peace with the Black and white people, and I have a dream to stop racist people, so we are all treated equally by everyone and not judged by our skin color, because in the end we're all the same blood color, by Avni Jinoria.
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., civil rights activist. Dr. King was not from Delaware, but he did visit Howard High School in Wilmington on September 12, 1960, because of amazing changes in two very important court cases happening in our little state during the civil rights movement. This was his first and only visit to Delaware. On that night, Dr. King spoke to a packed auditorium of 1,300 people and delivered a message of patience and persistence to the crowd.
Lewis Redding, Delaware civil rights activist and lawyer, pictured below with Justice Thurgood Marshall. Until 1954, U.S. schools were segregated. This means that Black students and white students were not allowed to attend the same school. The schools were separate, but they were not equal. Black students did not have access to transportation, and they often had to travel far away from their homes to attend school. Howard High School in Wilmington was the only high school in the state for Black Delawareans for many years, which meant that students in Kent and Sussex counties had to also find a place to live if they were to attend high school there. Court cases involving the unfair conditions in Delaware schools became part of the landmark Supreme Court case known as Brown versus the Board of Education, which resulted in school desegregation across the nation. Thurgood Marshall was the chief attorney on the case, and Mr. Redding was one of the other attorneys. Mr. Redding was a brilliant lawyer and the first Black attorney to be admitted to the Delaware bar in 1929. He was instrumental in winning that landmark case and worked to protect students entering schools in Delaware after desegregation became the law of the land. You'll see a Western Union notice from him below, where he's urging local law enforcement to protect students entering Milford High School. Mr. Redding's powerful words were even cited in the Supreme Court ruling. And 13 years later, his colleague on the case, Mr. Marshall, would be appointed by President Johnson to the Supreme Court and become the first Black American to serve as a justice on our nation's highest court.
A History Wrap by Justin Price.
Martin Luther King put the black and whites together. Now they're all in a group doing TikToks or whatever.
Martin Luther King had a dream. We had to believe that black people and white people could be on the same team.
Meet Shirley Beulah and the Claymont 12. You may already know about Ruby Bridges and her bravery, but do you know about the students from Delaware who bravely challenged unfair school policies? The courage shown by attorneys, students, parents, and other equal rights advocates in Delaware changed the nation. On the left here is a picture of Shirley Beulah. She had to endure an incredibly long walk to her school in Hockessin. When her mother asked if she could ride the bus with white students or have a separate bus, she was told that she could not. Shirley's mother, Sarah, then contacted Mr. Redding for help. On the right is a picture of the Claymont 12. The parents of these 12 students were upset that their children had to travel over an hour to Howard High School rather than attending Claymont High School right near their homes. At the time, Howard was the only high school for Black students in Newcastle County, and Claymont only allowed white students. Their case was combined with Shirley's and 5 others, and was brought before the Supreme Court of the United States.
Black American Delaware History. Education in Delaware, the 1700s through today. Do the best you can until you know better. Then, when you know better, do better. Dr. Maya Angelou.
The Claymont Stone School, first integrated school in Delaware. The Namens Creek School, also known as the Claymont Stone School, is a two-room schoolhouse built in two main sections dated 1805 and 1905. The school is on some roads familiar to many of us. The school is located on its original parcel at the corner of Darley Road and Philadelphia Pike near Claymont Elementary School. It is believed to be the first racially integrated school in Delaware, although it would take many years before schools were legally integrated. Take a look at the pictures at the bottom of this slide. The first picture shows a picture from 1890 of the Namens Creek School or the Claymont Stone School. In the middle, we have a class picture from 1892. Now take a look to the picture on the right. What do you notice? This is a class picture from 1894. How have these class pictures changed in just 2 years?
Historic teachers in Delaware. Let's learn about the great work done by Black educators throughout Delaware's history. Edwina Cruz, principal of Howard High School, first Black principal in Delaware. Alice Dunbar Nelson, teacher, Howard High School, journalist, political activist, and poet. Pauline Young, teacher and librarian, Howard High School, community activist, humanitarian, and historian. Dr. William C. Jason, president, Delaware State College, champion for equal education rights. Fred T. Johnson, science teacher, Jason High School, Tuskegee Airman, Congressional Medal of Honor recipient.
Pierre S. DuPont, an advocate for Black education in Delaware. Ever wonder why you go to Forwood and not some other school? The school children attend is based on the address where you live. That's why your friends that live around you go to the same school that you go to. But that wasn't always the case. 100 years ago, when your great-great-grandparents were in elementary school, not only was your address used to determine which school you would attend, the color of your skin was also used. White students went to one school, while students with black and brown skin went to a separate school. Sadly, the schools that black and brown students went to, often called colored schools, were in terrible shape compared to the schools for white students. For example, most colored schools did not have indoor plumbing, and students had to share an outdoor bathroom with no heat or water. Usually a single stove was used to heat the schoolroom and gave off so little heat that students had to wear their hats and coats and gloves all day long. Mr. Pierre S. DuPont, a wealthy businessman, saw the poor conditions of these schools and decided to do something about it. He set out to improve the condition of all schools, but especially those serving students of color. He believed that all students should have healthy and safe places to study and learn. Mr. DuPont spent over $6 million of his own money repairing and building new schools. To better understand how much money that was 100 years ago, that $600 million investment would be equal to $123 million today. Here's a few before and after photos that show the difference that Mr. DuPont's generosity made in the lives of students and the schools they attended. Wow, what a difference. Here's an actual letter that a student wrote to Mr. DuPont, thanking him for the school building that he had provided. November the 1st, 1927. Dear friend, I can never express to you in words how I appreciate the great deed you have done for our race. But I can show you how I appreciate our school by helping to see that it is cared for in the right way, so it may be used generations after generations. When I heard that you were building schools, and when the Harrington was complete, it seemed that my heart beat faster with joy. When you're in a nice warm room with a little seat all by yourself, and having the proper ventilation in the room, with the children's written mark and drawings hanging around neatly so that the other pupils in the other two rooms may see just what they will have next year, you can't help but study for a big round A. When I first went to school and saw what kind of buildings they had, I went home and asked Mother to pray to God and asked Him for better schools for the colored race. This is my 9th year in school, and through these years, God has at least answered my prayers. I thank you again and again for the wonderful schools. Very truly yours, Elmora Cannon. DuPont had a very close tie to the Brandywine School District. He paid for 2 of our district schools, David W. Harlan and P.S. DuPont Middle School, a school named after him. Mr. DuPont's generosity to his community and to all students of the state of Delaware are reminders that color of skin should not separate us, but bring us together, and that each of us plays an important part in making that happen. Whether big or small, we all must do our part.
Black American Delaware history. Black culture in Delaware, the 1800s through today. Music, dance, art, sports, writing, and fashion are not just ornamental, they are fundamental elements of one's culture. Delaware's Black culture is rich in history and diversity. If you try to suppress the arts, then you're suppressing the deepest dreams and aspirations of a people. President Barack Obama.
William Julius Judy Johnson, professional baseball player, coach, and scout. One Delawarean who made a difference through sports was William Julius Judy Johnson. Judy Johnson was born in Maryland in 1899 and moved to Wilmington, Delaware with his parents as a young child. He originally went to Howard High School but left before graduation to work with his father in the shipyards along the Delaware River. Judy was a great athlete and did well in many sports, but playing baseball was his passion. In the 1920s and 30s, he played third base in the Hilldale Club, Homestead Grays, and finally the Pittsburgh Crawfords. These teams were all a part of the Negro Leagues. During his time as a player, Judy was selected to the All-Star team twice and was a World Series champion. After he retired as a player, Judy became an assistant coach and scout for the Philadelphia Athletics, and he later did scouting with the Atlanta Braves, Milwaukee Brewers, Philadelphia Phillies, and the Los Angeles Dodgers. He even tried unsuccessfully to convince the Athletics to hire Hank Aaron. In 1975, he was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame, and the Blue Rocks field at Frawley Stadium in Wilmington was named in his honor.
Keith O'Brien Sims. Keith O'Brien Sims, also known as K.O. Sims, is a local artist, art instructor, school mentor, and art director. Mr. Sims graduated with art degrees from Delcastle Votech High School and the University of Delaware. He has taught students of all ages and has worked in public schools, boys and girls clubs, and senior centers all over the state of Delaware. You can see Mr. Sims' beautiful and powerful pieces on this slide and throughout this presentation. On this slide, you'll see a beautiful picture of the Rehoboth Boardwalk and the historic home of Mr. Lewis Redding. Many of Mr. Sims' pieces are displayed in restaurants and museums in Wilmington, like the Shipley Grill, the University of Delaware, Widener University, Hagley Museum, the Hotel DuPont, and at the Wilmington Flower Market. You can also purchase and view his work at many local art shows and art loops. Mr. Sims gave Forwood Elementary special permission to use his artistic images in our Black History Month presentation, and he personally sent well wishes and praise to Forwood Elementary staff and students for all of our hard work. Thank you so much, Mr. Sims.
Hair is the Thing. Beauty Shop Politics in Delaware. Dr. Tiffany Gill, who's pictured below, is a Black Studies professor at the University of Delaware, and she explained that Black beauticians played an often underground role in Delaware during the Civil Rights Movement. For example, they would have voter registration pamphlets from the NAACP and other important mail sent secretly to their under-the-radar storefronts. One woman who grew up on Wilmington's East Side said, "Hair is the thing. You sit down, even in the darkest or the poorest parts of Africa or other countries. Somebody, a child, a young adult, or a teenager is sitting down and getting their hair done." She also said that the routine of getting her hair straightened was quite special and was a big part of the city's African American culture. It gives you that place of belonging, that place of security, that place where you can talk about anything and somebody is standing there doing your hair and listening to what you have to say.
The book I read is called Cool Cuts. It's amazing. What I liked about the book was that it showed culture and history of black hair. It is cool because anyone can have any type of hair, no matter what you look like, who you are, your body, your hair. And your hair is amazing. If you read the book, it's about different hairstyles. My favorite hairstyle in the book is the full afro. I like this hairstyle because once you have it, you can do any style you want. For example, if you clean up the top, you got yourself a flat top. If you lay down, brush, and put a do-rag on for a couple of days or so, you got some waves. From my research, my eyes, I learned that the color of your skin, the shape of your body, everyone's hair is different, except lots of black people have more unique and coarse hair, but it's just as beautiful. For some, better. My connection to this book is that I'm mixed, but I have my mom's hair. My mom is white, so although I might show more black, my hair is white. Now I know you can't have a white hair, but my mother is white, so technically I have a white person's hair. Cool Cuts by Terada Risher.
Bob Marley. Did you know that the musical pioneer Bob Marley lived in Wilmington? He and his parents moved from Jamaica to the United States when he was a teenager, and they lived on Tatnall Street. His mother owned their home and ran a Jamaican music store called The Roots on Market Street. Before becoming an international music star, Mr. Marley worked as a lab assistant at the DuPont Experimental Station near our school and at the old Chrysler plant in Newark, where he helped build cars on the assembly line.
Mr. Marley dedicated his music making to uniting Africans worldwide and spreading a message of peace, perseverance, and spirituality. He masterfully combined reggae, ska, and rocksteady to create a new fusion of music that we will still connect with today.
Music is a powerful force. Music can help people contact, educate, and communicate in a beautiful, meaningful, and nonviolent way. We Shall Overcome is a gospel song that became a protest song. It became popular during the American Civil Rights movements of the 1960s and has been adopted all over the world as a song of freedom, hope, and peace. At Forwood Elementary, we believe that we will overcome racism and racial injustice someday. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. We are not afraid. We are not afraid. We are not afraid today. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. We shall live in peace. We shall live in peace. We shall live in peace someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday.
Black American Delaware history, what Black history means to us today. History has shown us that courage can be contagious and hope can take on a life of its own. Michelle Obama.
What is Black History Month for you? How is it important to you?
Black History Month is a month you celebrate Black leaders. It is important to me because I know that we are all the same, no matter if someone looks different or their skin is different. You should not judge someone on how they look or their skin color. We needed to show us we are the same, that no matter their skin color, we can all be friends. Gabriella.
Black History for me is a month where I can show Black people that I only know them for what is on the inside and not the outside. I get to show all my Black friends that I appreciate them.
Black History Month for me is a time for people of color can come together and celebrate their freedom and individuality and bring justice to people of color as well. Black History Month is important to me because it shows the freedom and strength of people of color. We need it so people will remember how far people of color have come through history. Thank you. Bye.
Think about your roots and family traditions. What are you proud of?
I am proud of being Lebanese. I'm proud of being Lebanese because there are all these good recipes of Lebanese food. Joshua.
Who inspires you to be the best that you can be?
Simone Biles makes me want to be the best that I can be in gymnastics, and she pushes me to do better.
Here are the 3 people in my life who push me to be the absolute greatest I can. 1. Kobe Bryant. 2. Deion Sanders, aka Primetime or Neon Deion. 3. My dad. Kobe's work ethic is amazing. He never stopped working hard and always encouraged himself and others to be the greatest they could be. He was a great person. Deion Sanders is an overall funny guy who was known best for playing football. He played as a free safety for the Dallas Cowboys and a kick returner for the Atlanta Falcons. During his career and beyond, Deion was an all-around funny and talented guy. This encourages me because I like to think I am funny, and so do others. He was one of the best trash talkers of all time, using this as motivation to do better. My dad, whenever verbally or physically, always pushed me and wanted me to be a better person than he thought he was. This makes me want to honor his legacy and strive for greatness, especially since I'm in a senior. TJ.
In every race, in every nation, and in every clime, in every period of history, there is always an eager-eyed group of youthful patriots who seriously set themselves to right the wrongs done to their race or nation, or art or self-expression. By Alice Dunbar Nelson, Black Delawarean poet.
Study Black Delaware history all year long to learn from the past, work in the present, build a better future.